Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Although by notable exception are WMUR, the union leader, and the Concord Monitor. The rest of you, thank you for being here. For several months, I think many of you know that the Women's Defense League, a New Hampshire-based volunteer organization whose mission is educating and empowering women, has been collecting signatures from New Hampshire voters concerned about the illegal and oppressive gun legislation that is working its way through the State House. House Bill 109, known as universal background checks, ironically sponsored by a Democrat state rep who pled guilty to assault, violates both state and federal law and will shut down New Hampshire gun shows, cripple, if not destroy, retail gun sales, and end firearms safety training programs like ours. That same guilty Dem sponsored House Bill 514, known as a waiting period for the purchase of firearms. This bill will leave law-abiding New Hampshire women at the mercy of assailants, not unlike Carol Bound of New Jersey, who was murdered in her driveway while waiting to purchase legally, waiting to be allowed to purchase legally a firearm for her own self-defense. Last, House Bill 564, alleged by the sponsor to simply codify the Federal Gun-Free School Zone Act, will actually make New Hampshire schools less safe by failing to adopt that same law. Whether these abominations are deliberate or perhaps worse, ham-handed and emotionally charged, they serve a progressive Democrat agenda of citizen disarmament, a policy we know to have failed at least once already. On January 2 of 2019, Governor Sununu said, quote, "As long as I am in Concord, as long as I am in this building across the street from us, you can count on me to protect your constitutional rights." Governor, this is one of the first of thousands of red cards signed by New Hampshire citizens that we will be delivering to you this morning, along with these two poster boards, the first two of which have been signed by hundreds of New Hampshire citizens. But they serve to demonstrate the support you currently enjoy in the Second Amendment community. And each of them, as well as the members of the Women's Defense League here with me today, urge you to hold the line, to veto these 18th century royalist measures resurrected from the dead to make living, breathing, law-abiding New Hampshire citizens 21st century criminals. Later this morning, when we're finished here with our press conference, we're going to be going across the street with the posters, with the cards, and with the camera to make sure that Governor Sununu receives these personally. But right now, I'd like to introduce a member of the Women's Defense League. We like to think of her as that first. But secondly, how many terms have you spent here?
5.
5-term State Representative Janine Notter, who's also one of the leaders of the New Hampshire Republicans in the state legislature. Janine, you get your step.
I'm a bit height impaired. Thank you for coming today. When Ms. Susan asked me to speak today, I took out my file on the gun bills. There's so many bad ones to look at. And I thought, well, which one should I talk about? All of them or maybe just one? So I decided I just pulled the remarks that I gave on the House floor for House Bill 564, which of course I oppose. And I stated on the House floor that as a member of the National Rifle Association and the Women's Defense League, a gun owner, and an ardent supporter of the Second Amendment, I argued that this bill criminalizes law-abiding citizens. This bill, 564, is a declaration that our children will be sitting in a defenseless zone without anyone to protect them against a psychopathic murderer. Crime Prevention Research Center reported that 98.4% of mass shootings occurred in a gun-free zone, with just 1.6% occurring where citizens are allowed to be armed. There have been no school shootings in the Granite State to date because we are one of the safest states in the country. So why do the Democrats want to jeopardize our safety record? Citizens Count sent an email to my legislative account stating that when they posted the following question, should New Hampshire prohibit guns in all safe school zones, they received opinions from 349 Granite State citizens. Of those, 311 were against a statewide ban on guns in schools, with 25 people in favor and 13 undecided. We want all of our children to be safe. This legislation will only make Granite State children less safe, and I look forward to seeing our governor take out his red pen and veto, veto, veto every single one of these bad gun-grabbing bills. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce the president of the Women's Defense League. Many of you already know her, but allow me to introduce Kimberly Morin, who's a journalist, an activist, an instructor, and my friend.
Bloomberg and the legislators he helped buy into the office, whoops, sorry, put it in the wrong way. For the past several years, New York City billionaire Michael Bloomberg, along with other out-of-state organizations, has been spending money and time pushing destructive gun control legislation in New Hampshire, one of the safest states in the country. In fact, Bloomberg's organization has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in our little state to buy representatives and senators into the legislature who will push his gun control agenda. Bloomberg and the legislators he helped buy into office are passing some of the most destructive gun control legislation to ever be seen in the state of New Hampshire. The Second Amendment has become one of the most important women's rights issues in modern history thanks to men like Michael Bloomberg, those he pays, those he buys into office, those who blindly follow him in the name of gun safety. The Women's Defense League will continue to fight for women's rights and the rights of all Granite Staters to practice their protected, fundamental human right to self-defense. Bloomberg is spending thousands of dollars to pass this destructive gun control agenda on lobbyists right here in Concord. What he didn't expect is true grassroots New Hampshire citizens who are fighting back. We are the majority. And we will continue to fight against Bloomberg's lies, lobbyists, and those legislators who seek to criminalize Granite Staters, especially women. Thank you.
And I think Kimberly makes a point that really I've thought about this a lot, I've worried about this a lot, and I cannot figure out how in the world the Democrat women who are the primary sponsors of this legislation would knowingly, deliberately, and intentionally seek to make their sisters, to make the rest of the women in New Hampshire less safe. It's something we will find as we go to the Senate. These bills, actually, it was just announced yesterday, are scheduled for Tuesday, April 30th, before the Senate Judiciary Committee, starting at 9, 10, and 11. All of these bills came out of the House. They've all gone to the Senate, and we'll start the process again. So we hope to keep you apprised. If you're able to join us with cameras and microphones next week, it will be a very useful thing because, as you can see, and as we all know, the mainstream media in New Hampshire refused to cover our side of the story. So thank you very much for coming. We welcome you to join us as we pack up here and walk across to go see Governor Sununu and deliver these items to him. Thank you again.
GraniteGrok TV.